Welcome to Spirits and Screams.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Spirits and Screams. I'm your host Karen, and tonight we are finally diving into the third and last film of John Carpenter's Apocalypse Trilogy, In the Mouth of Madness, and I'm really excited to talk about it. But first, look at my new t-shirt. Isn't it cool? This is a movie t-shirt from an indie filmmaker that you guys might all know, and that would be Sean C. Phillips. He is from the YouTube channel Cool Duder, and I think he's pretty cool. And I got a t-shirt. And this film's coming out really soon. I haven't even seen it yet, but I'm so excited by the trailer, and I really can't wait to see it. And I love supporting indie filmmakers, and I think Sean's really awesome, and I think he deserves support for his films that he's done. And he's got more coming out. There's even a second Desert Fiends coming out too, and I'll be excited to see that one as well. He always gets some cool actors, famous actors, to be in these films, and just really kind of offbeat and really fun. Can't wait to watch this one. Looks really good, and hopefully you guys all check it out too, and I'm sure I'll be reviewing it once I see it as well. So just want to do a shout out to Sean and say thanks, Sean, for the t-shirt. I love it. Desert Fiends from 2024. 6 friends on their way to a concert break down in the middle of nowhere and encounter a deranged family that lives in the desert, killing anyone they come across. Directed by Sean C. Phillips, starring Lorelei Linklater, Dominic Schmidt, Eric Roberts, and Tom Arnold. I can't wait to see it. I'll have all of Sean's socials linked in the description box below, so you can go check out his stuff, sub to his channel, and watch the movie. Now back to our movie review, In the Mouth of Madness. I can't wait to talk about this one. So this movie was actually filmed in Toronto, Canada, where I'm from, so I thought that was pretty cool. In the Mouth of Madness from 1994. When horror novelist Sutter Cane goes missing, insurance investigator John Trent scrutinizes the claim made by his publisher and endeavors to retrieve a yet-to-be-released manuscript and ascertain the writer's whereabouts. Directed by John Carpenter, starring Sam Neill, Julie Carmen, and Jürgen Prochnow. Also, up front, I just want to say that this review will have spoilers, so in the off chance you haven't seen this movie yet, please click off now and come back after you've watched it and we can chat, because you know I love to chat. One of the producers of this movie is Sandy King, who is directly related to Stephen King, and I will talk about that later on. The film starts out with all of these horror books being printed on a huge printing press. And then we cut to a scene where there's this disheveled, crazy character, played by Sam Neill, in a straitjacket being hauled off to a padded cell in a mental institution somewhere. We're not really sure what's going on. And this film is just visually stunning, I have to say. As they're dragging him in and locking him in, all of the patients are going crazy and there's lots of noise and chaos going on and that kind of thing. And Sam Neill's character says, "I'm not insane," and they say back, or someone says back, "Neither am I." So it's just this very surreal, kind of crazy thing that's happening, and we don't really know why. And then, to calm all the patients down, I suppose, they play over the intercom system music. And the song that they play is Karen Carpenter's We've Only Just Begun. So it's like so creepy and kind of very surreal right from the start. Really cool. We learn that Sam Neill's character is called John Trent, and he's been hauled off into this institution because he's suffering from delusional madness, essentially, and that's why he's there. So while John is there, he asks for a single black crayon, of all things, and when the psychologist comes to meet with him because he wants to try to make him well again, John's taken the crayon and drawn little crosses all over his clothing, his face, the cell walls, the padded cell walls, just covered everywhere. It's a super iconic scene. And he's done it because he wants to show he is crazy, that he can stay there because he feels safer there. Because he believes that we've destroyed the planet, the water system, the air, and he thinks there are people out there now that are trying to destroy our minds. That's what the whole premise of this movie is about. And then from there we cut back in time to where it originally started. Sam Neill looks very elegant and normal, dressed in a nice suit. So John was an insurance fraud investigator, and he was put onto this case to solve the disappearance of this famous writer, author named Sutter Cane. And he's got to find out where this guy's gone to, because he's got a lot of people from the publishing house wanting to know where he is, because he's got yet another new book coming out, and it's worth a lot of money because he's got a lot of books on the bestsellers list, and so he's an important person and they need to find him. So Sutter Cane wrote the book In the Mouth of Madness, the name of the movie. How about that? And we see out of the window a city bus go by, and there's an ad with this book on it, you know, advertising him and his book. So John's having a meeting in a coffee shop next about finding Sutter Cane. And they're calmly, quietly going about their business, and silently up walks towards the window this crazed lunatic with an axe, like a pickaxe, and he smashes the window and all hell breaks loose. And with all the craziness going on, he leans in and he asks John, "Do you read Sutter Cane?" It's so weird. It's such a strange, why is this happening kind of moment. And you see a close-up of his eyes, and his eyes have the double irises, a lot like The Substance. Wonder if they got it from this movie. And then the guy shot by police. Very, very strange and odd. And then the next scene cuts to John going to the publicist's office to meet, to discuss the job that he's going to be doing. And the character is played by Charlton Heston, so I thought that was really cool. So he learns that Sutter does horror books, horror novels, and that he's sold millions of copies. He's on the bestsellers list for a whole bunch of books, and that he outsells Stephen King. I thought that was a cool twist. And he is told that he's really important and they need to find him. He's then assigned to with this woman who works for the company. And her name is Linda Stiles, and she's played by Julie Carmen, who I thought that was really cool. I really love her a lot. Loved her in Fright Night too. And he learns that the axe-wielding crazy man was actually Sutter's agent gone crazy, and that Sutter's been working on the latest book installment, and he just kind of went silent, and they're wondering where he is because they're kind of worried about it. They don't know what's happened to him, and you know, they need this book to come out. So John officially accepts the job and is sent out on a mission to figure out what happened. He learns that when people read the books, they become disoriented, have memory loss, and become paranoid. And so that's kind of weird. He's got to figure out what's going on there. And at this point, John's thinking, and this is where he talks about this idea that I mentioned before, that the planet's messed up. The air, the water, all of it, why not control our minds as well? And he thinks that in some way these books are controlling people's minds, and they're becoming obsessed with them. So John's walking home after that in the dark, and he comes across this alley, and on the wall he sees this poster of Sutter Cane's book, Hobbs End Horror. And everything's kind of disheveled and ruined, and he looks down further and he sees this crazy cop that's beating on this guy for some reason, and there's all these people around that are kind of going crazy, and he's thinking from reading these books it's causing this mass hysteria, and that you know, it's a weird money-making scheme kind of deal. And the whole thing really reminded me of the movie They Live. It gave me those kinds of vibes. I don't know, what do you guys think if you've seen both of those movies? I just got that same kind of feeling. So John goes to the bookstore and gets one of each of the books so that he can research them and read them all and figure out what's going on. And he's kind of embarrassed doing it because he knows they're super popular books and he doesn't want to be seen doing that. Takes them all home to his place, sitting on the couch late at night. He's reading and he falls asleep watching TV. And he has a dream of that alley again, except this time the cop and all the people are like these weird zombie creatures, and they're actually eating the body of this guy that they beat up. And super gross, great practical effects. Everything done by Greg Nicotero of The Walking Dead, which I am a huge fan of. And so cool, so creepy. And he wakes up from the dream, but he kind of has a dream within a dream where he thinks he's waking up from it in a cold sweat, but he looks across the couch and beside him is sitting the zombie cop, and then he wakes up again, kind of freaked out. So the madness has begun. And out of this, he has an epiphany where he takes all of the books that are on the table and he thinks all of the covers kind of line up together at like a puzzle, forming a map. And he's thinking maybe the map will lead them to where Sutter is hiding out. There's lots of smoking in this movie. I guess it was a sign of the times. I don't know. Kind of gross. But he goes back to the publicist after all of this, and he thinks that they're making a fraudulent claim because there's no last book and they need that money to pay for stuff. So he's thinking that's what it is. So as much as he wants to quit, they insist that he keeps going with this and find Sutter. And so he's assigned with Linda to go together on this road trip with this map to find Hobbs End, because they think that's possibly where he's hiding out, to go and see if they can find him and track him down. All right, and I guess I should say the 6 books that Sutter has written are called The Hobbs End Horror, The Feeding, The Whispering in the Dark, Something in the Cellar, The Breathing Tunnel, and Haunter Out of Time. So those are the 6 books. So they're driving into the night and she takes over. Linda is driving and she's kind of half falling asleep and she can barely keep her eyes open. And it just feels like they're never going to get there. And she sees like a kid on a bike and she thinks she hits him, and it ends up being a really weird thing. They end up on this bridge tunnel that they have to kind of drive through. They go into it and it's darkness and it seems bad, but then all of a sudden like this weird time lapse happens. They end up on the other side and it's daylight and there's Hobbs End, Wow, just magically they got there and they don't know what's happening. And it all seems very bright and picturesque, but it's all very quiet and still, as though there's no people there. Much like if they were actually in a book, And she keeps seeing visions of these children running around, but he doesn't see anything, and something's wrong, something's weird. And they end up going to the Pickman Hotel where they get checked in. They meet a weird hotel front desk lady who's very kind of eccentric and strange. There's a weird painting on the wall that Linda can see changes. The figures kind of turn positions and change, and she's freaked out, but nobody else can see things, and anyhow, it's really kind of strange. So let's take a little step back and talk about the characters of this movie. So first off, we have John Trent, who's played by Sam Neill. I love Sam Neill. I loved him in Event Horizon, Jurassic Park, all of those good movies. He's really good in this, plays a really good part. And he's kind of set up as a very straight and narrow kind of person who slowly becomes unraveled as the story goes on. And we don't know whether he's crazy, whether the book is making him crazy along with everybody else, or if maybe he's a character in the book. It's all sort of vague and we're not really sure. Love that about this movie. This movie could have many different interpretations. I'm sure you guys will have lots of ideas that you want to share with me as well. But this is kind of the way I've taken it. And I think the creativeness in this film is very classic Carpenter style, leaving you kind of not knowing and wondering, like, could it be this or could it be that? And you kind of want to watch it again and again and again and analyze it. I love those kinds of movies. I know I've said that before, but I really do. I just find them on another level. I really enjoy them. All right, and then we have Linda Stiles, played by Julie Carmen. I love her so much. She's so amazing and beautiful and talented, and loved her in Fright Night too. That's one of my favorite movies. And we don't know in this movie, she's kind of very put together, but is she real, or is she crazy, or is she like another character in the book? We don't really know, so I find that really fascinating. Like, can other people actually see her? She's an editor for this publishing house, but is she there? Is she actually real? Who knows? And in real life, I read that she's actually a psychotherapist, an actual trained. So I thought that was really cool. I didn't know that about her, but anyways, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful human being. Mr. Harglow, the publisher, is played by Charlton Heston, who, I mean, everybody adores. I'm sure I love him. He's awesome. This role is very small, but it kind of reminds me of the same kind of role that he played in Soylent Green. I liked that movie too. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, he's good in this too. And also I want to say the Hobbs End is this cool little fictitious place that one of Sutter Cane's books is modeled off of that we get to visit. And Hobbs actually translates into the devil. So I thought that was really cool. So where they've ended up seems like the Hobbs End, just like the book, like they're in the book, but it's this real place, and it's very strange and odd, and they're not sure what's going on. And they come upon this black church that has this big mural on it that has the Archangel Michael and devils on it. Pretty creepy, but very picturesque kind of scene, you know, very still and kind of scary, spooky. And they come across this church, but it's locked and they can't get in. And there's these dogs, these Rottweiler dogs that seem to run around too, that makes it very scary as well. And I mentioned that Greg Nicotero does the special practical effects in this movie, and there's a scene where there's a bunch of monsters kind of moving together, and they're kind of like set up on a trolley that's pulled to make it look like they're moving. And apparently the trolley ran over Greg's foot and he had to be hospitalized for that because he was injured. This is crazy. The crazy lengths that artists will go to make a movie, right? John keeps seeing this man, this strange older man, and he keeps warning him that he needs to leave, that they all need to leave, but they can't seem to get out. It's almost as though this bridge tunnel was kind of like a portal into another dimension. But it is one of those things where are we reading the book and these are the character development in the book and stuff that's happening to them, or is it actually happening to them in a weird way? And John leaves the church and goes back to the hotel, and the manager of the hotel, she's like becomes this crazed monster with these flailing tentacles and an axe and goes kind of nuts. Linda sees this sign that says, "Any who enter the unholy site be damned." So that's pretty crazy too. So there's something strange going on here, they know for sure. Linda gets into the church. She goes down some dark hallways and finds a room where she finds Sutter Cane. And he's played by Jürgen Prochnow. I was so excited when I saw that. The first time I saw him was in the movie The Seventh Sign with Demi Moore and what's his name? Michael Biehn. And so I thought that was so cool. I really love that he's in this one. I really like him a lot too. He's a great actor. And he's madly typing away at his typewriter, and he's got Dobermans surrounding him. So the ones that were outside of the church kind of guarding it and running around barking and scaring everybody, they're with him, and he's madly typing away at presumably his book. Really kind of a creepy scene, and really kind of like, what the heck are we going through all of this to find you here? Like, why haven't you called or answered or, you know, said where you were, any of that? And he just grabs her and he forces her to read the book. He says, "It's finished," you know, forces her to read it. And as she's reading it, these like crazy flashes of images and stuff start wielding through her head. And she eventually goes crazy after reading it. She kind of turns into one of these monsters as well. And she goes back to the hotel and meets John, and, you know, she's kind of crazed, and he's wanting to, we need to leave because things are bad. It's not good because of this crazy innkeeper lady. And she says to him, I can't leave. I've read the book. And they're constantly being told to read the book to be enlightened and spread the word kind of deal. So that's really cool. You could interpret that so many different ways. You really could. Very, very cool. And very tense because he just, it feels like it's screwed and there's no way for him to get out. And the fact that she's changed as well is kind of sad, even though he doesn't know her that well. But he kind of liked her at the beginning. Remember I said that. And kind of reminds me of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, you know, when they start to change and they can't, it's kind of screwed. I love that. And John is thinking, well, screw you, I'm leaving. So he tries to leave. And he just, every time he tries to leave, he goes through the tunnel. He just comes back to where he started, like he's on a loop and he can't get out. And there's one point where he's got the car and she grabs the keys and she actually eats the keys. It's a really bizarre scene, but apparently the keys were made of pasta. She did that. So he's infuriated because she's eaten the keys and he can't drive the car. Now to get going, he tries running, but nothing works. You start to get the sense that maybe this place is evil. You know, and Cane is some sort of demon or something, the devil himself. And that anyone that reads the book kind of falls into the whole thing and becomes a minion of Satan or whatever, and just can't get out, like a real nightmare kind of deal. And wow, I love it. I love it. This story is just the perfect movie for my channel for sure. So there's no escape, and it's kind of a battle between good and evil, where the evil is kind of corrupting the environment, the planet, the people, their minds now, and there's just no way out. You got three things kind of going on here. Either everybody's just crazy, or one of the characters is crazy and we're hearing their version of the story, or you know, there's some sort of demonic force that's actually controlling all of the people and taking over the world. Or are they all characters in his book and we're seeing it relayed from, you know, someone's mind kind of thing, from his mind, how he's visualizing the story and writing it down. We don't really know. I love it. Also forgot to mention that the score in this movie is really good too. I find it just fascinating. All three of these films from John Carpenter are so different. You know, each one is similar in some ways, but very different ways to play them out. I find that so talented. I think these are his best films, in my opinion. You know, I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but I think they are. I highly recommend that you check them out if you haven't, or give them a rewatch, because they're really that good. I own all of them in my collection, and they're so inspiring and incredible. I think that all new filmmakers should actually check them out as well, because I think there's a lot to them to learn from, and very entertaining as well. So throughout, John has this man who's constantly telling him, you need to get out of here, you gotta leave, and then eventually that man is no more, and Linda has become crazy as heck, and when she eats the keys, we see her kind of contorted, like upside down, much like the stair crawl from The Exorcist, that kind of a moment, you know, really kind of creepy and weird. They actually used a contortionist for that part as well, so really, really creepy and really scary. But in true horror movie style, John does not give up. He hotwires the car to get away, and instead of ending up back where he was, he ends up in this confessional, and Sutter Cane is there, and he talks with him and explains to him that, I'm gonna let you go, but Linda can't leave because she's read the book, but you need to go back with the book and spread it to the people, you know, to the masses, to convert them and, you know, share the story with them. There's really cool visuals at this time too. There's like this huge book page, like when they're inside of that church, and Sutter, like, John goes to rip at his face, and it's like he's tearing a book page, and it opens a doorway, and that's how he can get out, but he's got the book with him. And then he ends up waking up on the side of the road. He's out, but he's got the book, and he tries to burn the book and get rid of it, but it just keeps like rematerializing again, like it won't let him do that. He needs to spread the book around. Yeah, just bizarre, really crazy. Just before he gets away, actually, Cane says to John, you're a character in my book, and John says, I'm not fictitious, and Cane says back to him, I think, therefore you are, referring to Descartes' I think, therefore I am. Yeah, really cool. I thought it was a really neat touch. Really kind of gets you thinking about the whole thing, of where things are coming from, the perspective, all of that. Really cool. So John makes it back to the publisher to tell him the whole story of what had happened to them. And the publisher says to him, I didn't send you with any girl. There is no girl. And he's like, you did send me with Linda. She was there. She's stuck there. We need to rescue her. But he said there was no girl. And he says, this is a great story. If you write it for me, I will publish it. And John's super confused. So there's a huge plot twist in the whole thing. Now we're wondering, is John just crazy? Was this, everything was in his mind? And we're seeing it kind of play out. Is he the author? Is he Sutter Cane? That kind of thing. So cool. And John says, no, the book that needs to be published is In the Mouth of Madness. I finally got the finished copy of it. We found Sutter Cane. And the publisher says, no, that book was published months ago. So then we learn everything's screwed. John just goes hysterical, you know, completely into madness because it's out there and there's nothing he can do and he can't prove it to anybody. And John leaves and he sees a guy buying one of the books and he goes hysterical and he ends up like hacking him up into pieces. And he ends up getting taken off to the psych ward, which is where the movie started in the first place. I loved the scene with the book page where Cane's face gets torn and the hole rips and all that part that I talked about earlier. I really love that scene a lot. It gave me a lot of vibes of Paradise Lost, and I love that. Yeah, really, really cool. Carpenter's really awesome, and I really think he's made some amazing movies here with these 3 films. I really do. John also learns that this book has been made into a movie, so I mean it's completely devastating. The whole world is just screwed. And he gets out of the psych ward and he goes to the movie theater, walks in, gets a popcorn. He's got his pajamas on kind of thing with all the crosses all over them. And he sits down in the seat, and as he's watching, you just see his face watching the movie, eating popcorn. He's slowly starting to maniacally laugh until he starts to sob kind of thing, because it's just so perplexing in his brain. And so at that moment, you don't know what's happened here, if it was all in his head, if he wrote the book, if he's a character in the book, if Satan has taken over the world, if any of it, we don't really know. There's so many different statements and things going on here. I absolutely adore this movie. So for my review, I'm giving this movie a hard 5 out of 5, a Spirits and Screams cult classic. I freaking love this film because I do. Recommend that you see it. Give it a rewatch. Tell your friends. I think it's so much fun. And comment down below, long comments. You know I love to chat. I'd love to chat about this one. Tell me all your thoughts, all the extra stuff that I missed, and we'll talk about it. And you know what? This concludes our 3-part series of the Apocalypse trilogy from John Carpenter, The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and In the Mouth of Madness. So what I'd like you to do also is comment down below which of those 3 films are your favorite. I'm not sure. I kind of like them all for different reasons, so it's really hard for me to say what's my favorite. But if I was forced to choose, I probably would choose Prince of Darkness because I really, really loved that film. But I really like this one too, and The Thing, of course. But let me know down below. Well, you guys, I'm sorry this took so long to get up, but you know, life happens, and here it is. It's been really fun hanging out with you, and I will see you again really soon on the next one. Bye, guys!